her and the husband. So she had to throw his lunch to him. She did this by tucking the haggis in a piece of string, and it had to be moved like this between her legs, and then she would throw it across the stream to her husband. And this was performed at the Highland Games, and so I had to say, well, I'm afraid I've never come But it was an American thing, you know, just as tartan, cooking the tartan was a Scottish minister, albeit in New York, who said, well, my church attendance is down during September. What can I do? Then he said, oh, we'll cook the tartan. And he started a tradition which is original and it's American and it's a good tradition. So some of these traditions could come back over to Scotland too, but we must be a little cheery of some of them. Now, are there any other points anyone would like to raise? The meeting has gone extremely smoothly. There have been no tears, no blood on the carpet.
I'll speak up.
Good man.
Bill Strachan from Glencoe.
Oh, right.
Now, you can correct me, Jim, if it's wrong, but I think the teleconference last year, as far as I'm aware, Rob got 100% support for the role of commander. And I think that speaks volumes, because the teleconference lasted longer than I thought, and there was very many good points put forward, and the 3 candidates were interviewed in detail. And I think that the fact that you get 100% support speaks volumes. You know, lost souls, when now is the chance we have a leader, a father of the clan, and really like, and I'm quite sure the hospitality will be there. Is it?
Absolutely, of course it is, and it has been as well in the past. And you know, because Strachan's from all over the world, the McDonald's don't have this problem, do they? And a few other clans.
There've been too many other
be careful what you wish for. But perhaps we need to give that some thought. If there's a way around this pronunciation thing, I think we should think about it at least some more.
Well, but excuse me from butting in. Lloyd this morning at Line Office, tell them the story you told me about the folk from Scotland emigrating who used the surname and pronounced it in a certain way, which you have retained, whereas back here in Scotland, we have gone away from the old pronunciation, some would argue, and we now say Strachan.
I'm not sure what the basis of that is, whether, I mean, perhaps in your book, Jim, you had said that originally in Scotland it was pronounced Strachan, and the migrants who went in the 1700s, 1800s carried that name with them to Australia or Canada or the Caribbean. And those of you who stay behind somehow use a different pronunciation.
We were talking about that yesterday, Charles and I. The initiative, what we think happened is during the Napoleonic Wars, the Mearns is a very fertile ground, and there was lots of food that needed to be grown in order to feed the troops. And those who migrated abroad, so basically the rent skyrocketed in Aberdeenshire, especially in the Howe of Mearns, and many of you saw that the other day. And as such, the Strachan, the poor folk like us, kind of went scattered around the world. Those that went abroad didn't have to worry about a Highland, Lowland stigma and could use the strong surname. And that's why in Canada, America, Australia, and elsewhere, the name is most popularly pronounced Strachan. However, if you were coming down from the Highlands and looking for employment in Glasgow, Edinburgh, or England, you really didn't want to use a Gaelic name, in which case it got anglicized into Strachan. And that's, first off, we have no proof to prove this, but that's the only explanation that seems to be viable, is that there was it was a forget what the
It probably-
linguistic name is called, but there's a linguistic term for that.
And I think to alter that situation would probably be a dangerous step. I think you should keep the two pronounced, not attempt to marry them.
It is a point though that it makes you always seem a little bit unsure.
Yeah.
Because you're always sort of having to think, it's drawn, pronounced, Strachan, as if you don't really know what
What you're up to.
Yes. Which is unfortunate that we can't be a little more single-minded, but
Give
perhaps
everyone their Christian name. They forget it.
Well, we have been accused of being strunkens. So, just a thought.
If I could also bring one more point up as far as what this is, and Rob and I and Dennis and several other people have had conversations about this. Our plans for the future is we would like to put up and there's certainly a Mercat, as many of you saw, a Mercat cross within the village of Strachan. However, what we'd really like to do is put up some sort of a war memorial at the mill for all those Strachans who had died during World War I and World War II to honor their memory. And again, we had also talked in the spirit of Adam and Innes of Lerney about possibly buying or procuring lands that are reserved in trust for the clan, and preferably, now this is obviously pie in the sky, grandiose, but it would be nice if we had a couple cottages and a great hall to have clan gatherings in, or if Bill and his family wanted to visit from Glencoe, we could just put them up in one of the cottages for free. These are some of the things that we've been dreaming about. It will probably take a lifetime to accomplish, but those are some of the things that Rob and I and Dennis, and again, I've had conversations with many other people here about that.
I'd like to put a heritage center, something where if all of you had a little piece of history from your family, could bring it in and we could keep it there. Place for not only to come to the mill, but also to come to the town and know that that valley was where your family came from. And I'm hoping that I'll see that in my lifetime. I really would like to see us all have a place we can call home.
But it's very good to have a goal, to have something that you want to work towards. And of course, many clans already have such a thing. I'm particularly thinking of the Clan McPherson, which has a superb clan centre. All arbitrous clansmen have their arms up on the wall and so on. And Lloyd has a fellow Canadian, McPherson, who is a superb heraldic artist, and he, I think, has painted these shields and gifted them to the centre. So the sky is really the limit, and the largest room in the world is room for improvement. The smallest room is a mushroom. So you can have lots of ideas, and it'll be a case of having the will to take them forward. And what these two gentlemen here particularly need, and what the commander will need in the future, is support. There's so many people who will say, oh yes, I'll do that. But when it comes to doing the work, and sadly, we don't seem to be attracting young people nowadays for all kinds of things. So it'll be up to you to get your children heavily involved as well in the whole clan idea and take it on from there. Now, if there is no other business, no other comments at all, do you wish, as a possible candidate in the past, would you like to say anything, Sir Hugh?
Not at all. I would simply obviously want to say how much I support Rob, and to say I think how wonderfully Jim and Dennis have put their shoulders to the wheel. I mean, it seems to me that to have been 9 years in the doing, we were going to the gents before we came up here, speculating how long you had been at it, and we underestimated by some considerable margin, I have to say. So it must be a great achievement to have got this far. While I'm speaking, let me quickly say, because war memorials happen to be part of my professional business, there are, when you get to that stage, there is some really serious thinking you have to do, but I'd wait till you get there. I mean, that's partly the
I
obvious
just
point.
heard a committee, the leader, right?
But what you should also do.
Without objection,
I
so
noticed, is you should look, I mean, the Common War Graves Commission website for a start, you will see there are many more Strachans and Strachans than there are just on the Scottish National War Memorial, because of course that will, and then when you think, how about all those other Strachans and Strachans who have served in the armed forces of other countries, rather than the countries of the Commonwealth and the United States, being one of those examples. So, I mean, there is a serious challenge in front of you in terms of addressing that.
And
But you-
thank you for your help in advance.
They would get considerable help from the Secretary of the Scottish National War Memorial. Because there, of course, he has a database of all Scots and those of Scots descent who've
In Scottish units and Scottish named units.
Yes.
So, for example, I mean, just to give you a bit of a purely family illustration, my grandfather was from the London Scottish. He would figure that, first of all, my great uncle was in an English regiment and was killed, and of course he's not. They're both in the same family. They're both Strachans, but one served in an English regiment. So, where do you?
Well, I think you might find that they are beginning to accept names. They are adding names all the time.
I know they're looking at their
Yeah.
record right now.
So it'd be interesting to see, because I'm sure I've been told of Canadians of Scottish descent whose names have gone into the record here in Edinburgh.
Well, they've absolutely included that, and that's
But still, then you have an expert there to help, which is good, and this is the kind of thing that Rob will require. You may begin to set up a database of expertise in the clan, so Rob just looks up the index card.
That's what I like.
That's the man. So, but it will involve that kind of organisation, yes, ma'am.
At the risk of dominating the discussion, I think that one thing that we need to do here today is to thank the society for bringing us together. If it wasn't for these two gentlemen sitting here and your committee, we would not be here today. And we know that we will see results of your work in the future, and we really appreciate that. The other thing it strikes me is that we're a group of 24 here. There are probably a few hundred people in the world who know we're meeting today. Ideally, we should set up some sort of a PR strategy to try to reach out to all of the clan members, based ideally on our meeting today. I'm not sure what that could be, but probably, as Hugh is a specialist in one area, there are likely PR specialists among us sitting here today who can help this happen. I will certainly be willing to spread the word in Ontario if I get press releases or other things like that. And I'm sure that all of us can do our part in our own region.
And in this day and age, of course, one of the things that could be organised is a website. Maybe you have that already.
We
So
do.
that is a good way for people, if they want to know more.
Can I ask the sort of crashing the obvious question? We have one Strachan who's particularly famous in Scotland at the moment, and has a particularly arduous job in terms of national expectation. Has any contact been made with him?
We've attempted,
Yeah.
we haven't heard it, and we don't know if it's getting, this is when he was employed with Celtic.
Mm.
And we don't know if the secretary was cutting it off or he just threw it in the rubbish.
The other way is getting in touch with him, because he's got to be socially out there.
Yeah.
So, but
Well,
I was going to say, could we put a press release that this event took place?
I hope you do, because the last Derbfine that I chaired was up in Dingwall, and there were lots of photographs next day in the papers. So you should really, before you split up, write a press release and put it out, just saying this event has happened, watch this space, the Lord Lion is going to make a pronouncement, and this new Lord Lion will not mess about. You'll get a decision from him, I should think, within a few weeks, if not days.
There is,
Oh yes, he is really speeding up the process.
Elizabeth John got coming from Scottish Field this afternoon.
You have?
Yes, there's
Good.
a photograph of the Scottish Field.
Excellent, excellent.
And
Now,
question now
hold on,
was-
gentlemen, yes, young
Would
lady.
this come from Rob, or would it come from the society?
so Scottish Field's going to be here already. The press release will probably come from the society, and we've done press releases in the past. Matter of fact, after the conference call, we did a press release, and it came out in the Aberdeen.
Press journal.
Yeah, that a man from the Northeast
Right.
is risen.
Well, I might point out too that Maggie's a reporter from South Africa.
So, yes, we did. You've been very quiet, apart from funny sounds coming from your camera.
No, not mine.
Oh, no.
That could be my stomach. No, I'm not officially part of the meeting, but being a half Strachan, I'm sort of involved in it anyway. Yes, I've got a number of publications that I'll be covering the story for, and I'm very active on social media as well, and obviously willing to assume the mantle of PR, writing the official material whenever that needs to be done, whether we're looking at brochures or whatever it is to get the name out there. So that would be my job.
Are there many Strachans in South Africa?
Huge family. Yes.
Got one right over there as well. Let's raise your hand. There you go.
Right, good. Well, welcome to Scotland. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I think we seem to have exhausted comments, unless someone is desperate to say a word. All I can do as supervising officer is to thank you all very much indeed for coming along and making the efforts of Dennis and Jim worthwhile. As I've already said, it's quite obvious whom you would like to be named for your representative or commander, and that is certainly the recommendation I shall make in my report to Lord Lyon. So thank you all for coming. Safe journey home when you eventually do go. Have a great time this evening. You've experienced lunch, some of you have experienced breakfast here in this club, and so you'll have a superb dinner, I know, later on. So thank you for asking, particularly Jim and Dennis, about things properly through Lion Office, and that is certainly the way to go, because it's the Lord Lion, in this instance, is the complete heraldic autocrat of Scotland, and his word is law. And once you've got his word, then the sun will shine upon you. So thank you very much indeed for coming and being such a good convention audience. Thank you. My pleasure. Thank you, Josh. Dennis,